Okay, so it's, yeah, I look crazy, I know. There's a reason. Anyway, that's fine. I was going to talk about, first do get ready with me. I tried some new Dollar Tree stuff, so this is the final. Now, obviously the eyes, I would fix it if I were to be going out. This is kind of a mess here. And then this, I would just remove a color or something, but I was trying to show the quality of all the colors. So I wouldn't go out looking exactly like this. I'd fix some things, but so far, this is kind of the final look, kind of. And I've got no filters, no nothing, no editing. So I feel like everything's really not coming together, to be honest, but individually, some of the items are beautiful. And I thought I would talk about, excuse the background noise if you hear another language. That's not meant to be included in this conversation. It just, this is what I have access to right now. Okay. So, what we have now is for brows, I'm just going to go through what I wore, and then I'll talk about the subject I was going to talk about. So this is the LA Colors brow pencil. So that's what I used. I feel like my brows look very thick, but I think the color is okay. It's very buildable. I feel like the pigmentation, it's not too strong in color, which is nice, so you can really work with it. Like, this is me kind of swatching with quite a bit of pressure, and that's what comes off, so you're getting a very soft, I don't know. I think for me it's just I haven't tweezed the brows in a while, and so that's what has to be done. But it's in soft brown. I'm going to try to fix this a little bit more because I want to give you guys the best idea of what these look like. Okay, that looks a little bit better at least. For concealer, now the eyeshadow, the quality, even the mascara, there's like fallout. So the concealer did come off a bit. So I think, to be fair, I'll just add a little bit more, but I use the LA Colors liquid right here from Dollar Tree. So the brows were from Dollar Tree, and so is the concealer. Most of what I have is from Dollar Tree. So you can kind of guess. I feel like that did something. It gave it a little bit more coverage. This under eye looks smoother, not as, here you can see all the fine lines. So I have a feeling this concealer, unfortunately, does kind of exaggerate. It sort of settles within the fine lines. There we go. Let's see, this one is in porcelain, the concealer. I was able to find like at least my shade in this, so that was nice. Because some things it was tough to find my shade. Then for liner for the lips, I use the Ioni lip pencil. These are quite nice. I kind of smudged it in, but because I felt like the look was, I used a different color too. This one's a lot more. Okay, so you can really build the color a lot, as you can see. I'll fix it. So this is the color Scarlet. The other one I had on was a different color, and I really smudged it too. These are very pigmented and creamy. I wish they kind of formed a straight line. Like, I wish they went on a bit easier. I wish the pigment was just there easier. I don't know how to explain how this works exactly. It's very interesting. Like I feel like I do. This is obviously way too strong, but even to get any sort of a decent color, I do feel like I have to kind of go back and forth to make a sort of a continuous curve. I just feel like you're not going to get a strong line or strong curve from just like using it once. You have to go over it a few times. Let me see if... Okay. Let me see here. So this is the box that the liner comes in. And this is the liner in Scarlet. This actually may have been what I was using, just... Let's see here. There, I don't know. This one I think is more... I don't know. Trying to show you guys just a curve, like just a line by itself, but without it being... It's hard to get a medium amount. You can kind of see. Kind of. So that's more so a line that I would do. And then try to fill it a little bit more, but it's tough with this liner. I think it's because the pencil is kind of thick. Like the, you know, the tip. Okay. Then I used, what did I use? Where is it? I used, I can't find, oh, here it is. Looks like this. It's a balm. Just a balm from LA Colors in pink. It's the Shea Butter Lip Balm from LA Colors. There you go. It's kind of a nice color, very light, but I think it's common. It's a very common color. This one's not going to show with that red. Yeah. So I'm going to take off the liner just so you can really see the color of this one. To be fair, it's too much of a contrast, so you really can't see. There you go. That's closer to what this one looks like. At least it's a mix. So on its own, this one looks like that. Okay. I feel like with the eyes especially, the this liner isn't really the right color at all. I think I'm just gonna take the liner off. You guys see? A lot of the times I won't do liner. I don't think it's necessary. It just gives a nice contrast. Now the foundation is kind of coming off. Okay, so I'll figure out the name of that one. Then mascara I did, it's kind of smudging, but initially it was really nice, and I still think it looks nice. I just like the style. It's from LA Colors, it's called Curve, and it's like a yellow, I don't know where it is. The tube is yellow. So that's the mascara. Then for the blush, which I do think it's not long lasting, unfortunately, from the LA Colors. It's in Berry. Garbage. So it's a nice color, but it's very light. And these are this shade for some reason is much more light than the other shades that I've tried. It's very different. It's still nice. The question is, like, you know, how much time do you want to waste if you really want to get a decent kind of intense color. So when it comes to making it last longer, the Laura Geller Speckle Mist really makes a difference, because I don't know if you could tell before, on this side, the blush, there was still a little bit of blush. On this side, it's basically gone, especially in real life. So it hasn't even been an hour, and this is basically faded and almost, you know, gone on this side. So I did the mist twice on this side here. So I've never tried that mist. This is the first time. I got it through BoxyCharm. Now I don't know where it is. Yeah, I tried this bronzer from Dollar Tree, and then I ended up removing all of it. Trying to not... You have no idea how hard it is to film in this kind of environment. The noise, the everything. So this one is in porcelain. It's just a powder. Luxe matte setting powder. I don't know if it does anything. I like that it didn't look thick on the face at all. It's very light, but I just did it on this half. It doesn't do anything that I can tell. And I feel like it may have exaggerated all of the little dots and lines and stuff. And I think even the blush did that, because it has a bit of glitter. Maybe that's why it's not as pigmented as most of those shades are. So I tried this B Color Liquid Bronzer in Sunset Glow from Dollar Tree, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the blush either. I just ended up taking this whole thing off. It really wasn't, it didn't look that bad. Like on smaller areas of the face, it really didn't. But I was trying to get a uniform amount kind of everywhere naturally on my face and neck, and it was just too difficult, too much time. So that's why I just took it all off. There's a little bit of residue, but not that much. So I'm not wearing any bronzer. I guess I could, but there's that. Yeah, that brush that I mentioned when I don't even know if I mentioned this one from Sassy Chic from Dollar Tree. So they have a double-ended. Now, this isn't very soft, to be honest. It's okay, but this side is not soft. It's very kind of flimsy. I think it's meant to be a foundation. I mean, I guess it's flimsy, but it's also very sturdy in a way. Like, it bends, but not in a very constrained way. And, you know, this one, I guess, I've been able to use for eyeshadow. I guess you can use it for concealer. So the main focus of this was, as far as what's on my face, was the eyeshadow. So this is what I used on, and I think it really made my, you know, what's on my face last a lot longer. Like that blush. So we're gonna see if it makes the foundation last longer or not. Which, it's not exactly a fair test, because when I did that liner, this already came off like a little bit around the mouth area. So this is the Laura Geller Spackle Mist. It says with electrolytes, not electricity, electrolytes. It does have a scent like a sort of sunscreen. It's a nice scent. Sunscreen, vanilla, a bit sweeter than sunscreen. So there's that. A little bit of a glow too, like especially here I can see that glow. I think that's because that's where I had the most. This I guess we can try. It's a brush as well from Dollar Tree. I'll just use that to kind of fix. It's very interesting. I know this style is somewhat in. It's very light. It's very much so the reverse style as this one. So these are very much different from each other. This one's very loose and just, it's like a, I don't know why it's reminding me of like a duster or something, like that kind of material. I don't know, I guess you could use it for blush or, I don't know. So there we go. Then the eyeshadow is, I was not a fan of the color schemes that I found. It was in tailored. So this one is tailored. This one is Queen's Desire. I have to go get it. So this one's tailored. The other one I can't find. Anyway, there was, Dollar Tree has these quads from LA Colors. This one's tailored. There's classics. That's the one I would recommend. Far better quality. Like in terms of all of them I've tried, this one is by far the best. The classics. There's Queen Desires. So this, I would say, honestly, this shade is quite nice. So if you're willing for just a single shade, it's just a cream matte, but decent pigmentation, although you do have to kind of build it. You know, this is what, $1 something? So really it's just for that shade. So if it's within the budget and worth it for you to waste $1 something on a single shade, then I would get this, but otherwise, like, there's no need to waste your money, really, on all the rest. The brown is kind of basic. It's okay, it's nice, but, you know, there's so many brown, just a matte brown shadow like that, with that tone. And the shimmers I did not care for. I mean, this kind of gray shimmer was okay, but the quality, you can tell, is not that great. This blue, especially as a shimmer, did not really work. You can get a light blue kind of color, as you can see. I'll try to feel bad because it really wasn't, this side is really not a good look. But that's like that brown, that's the blue. So you can't really see on camera. Do you see how kind of patchy the blue is? Like you can see through it, kind of. That I would consider not good quality. Even this silver, I don't know, I feel like you're getting more so of like a gray kind of color. You're not getting the sort of silver-y. I don't know if I can, I don't know. I have to tweeze. Let me try taking this off, and I'm gonna try it one more time, but especially just show you guys because I know that I feel like most folks, even when I bought it for that shade, really, to be honest. So I'm gonna just take that eye stuff off. So this one is in Queen's Desire, and I think that turned out okay. Not the best, but at least okay. That one was much easier to work with, and I find the quality, especially on the shimmers, were much better. I feel like if you're going for shimmers, you don't really need this. I would get the Queen's Desire or the Classics, because you're gonna see the shimmers in here are really not that good, unfortunately. So that's that gray kind of color. See, it's not horrible, but maybe it's really not my kind of color. But I don't think the quality is necessarily horrible. Okay, fortunately I did not bring a brush of any kind. Okay, let me bring brushes. I guess I was going to talk about how there's quite a bit of financial struggle in America and the world right now. And at least what's going on in America is legislation went through for federal budgets. So basically starting 2026, maybe 2027. Okay, that's not bad as an all over. I was wondering how to make this work. I think that's the key. Okay. See, this brown is really much better as an overall look. This is just that matte shade. Oh. So I guess you can make a sort of gray. When you mix the gray and the white, it kind of becomes like a light blue color. Gray. Now this blue, that's really what's gonna make or break it. Much better. Okay. You did see I'm giving both of them a fair shot. What I was saying is that there's that bill, so basically it's ultimately from what I understand, I could be wrong, but you know, each state is going to be able to, when it comes to their services, their what we would call welfare benefits, you know, that's what it's called traditionally. Trying to find, I can't find the color scheme I used on this side, so I'm just gonna have to use a brown from the Queen's, from Tailored, from the color scheme called Tailored. So there you go, but at least you get an idea of what you can do with all the shades. All right, so that is the total look. Excuse the hair here, we gotta fix that. That can't be done by cosmetics. I'm gonna try to I was trying to see if this if it would help on the eyes, this thing, I would guess, but anyway. So back to the subject, I was saying how this bill would cut federal fundings, I believe, starting 2026. Like, if you look at the bill, it's long, but there's categories where, under certain restrictions, like Medicare has a certain date, food assistance, certain date, housing, etc. So it's going to start, these kind of things will start to go into effect 2026. And I think is the earliest, and then it will continue on. And some individuals are, okay, so I use this on the eye and a lot of fallout you can see here. So maybe don't use this on the eye, because I think it's even ruining the overall look. Like, certain colors are fading. So, what I was saying was, yeah, so the funding would be cut, and already what we're seeing now is, states are starting to change. Some of them change their rules, maybe cutting folks off, but that's, I'm quite sure, a state by state thing. So folks are being affected by something, some kind of legislation, local, state, federal. They're being affected left and right in the U.S. So, like, some states are just saying, for instance, for the food assistance, you may, maybe work requirements, maybe they're just lessening how much, for instance, a single individual can get or how much families can get. I don't know the exact details. Each state has always, no, I don't think there's a single, like, two states that do things exactly the same way. So, but yeah, millions of Americans are just, I don't know how much it is. I'm sure at least thousands by now are, losing. They're losing something, whether that's food or housing or all the other stuff. And then you've got folks online making a mockery of it, like, making fun of these folks and saying they're ungrateful and all this. And folks don't realize, like, it's not really about that, regardless of why, or maybe better choices could have been made. Like, in my case, yeah, I could have done better if I knew better, but I didn't, so that's life. So there's this argument over, why this occurred, whether someone's deserving, blah, 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 but, the situation is what it is now. So, I mean, you can argue all you want, but you can't change what has already occurred. And the fact is that some folks, they do need, if you take away, for instance, food, they're going to go hungry. They might, at this rate, maybe some will die of starvation. I think that's going to be like a relative small number of individuals, but, with all these cuts in the future, that may be the case. Some, even if you don't die, it's like, it's very uncomfortable. It's, I remember there were times where I would miss meals, sometimes a meal a day, many times, sometimes less. And many of those times I was laying in bed doing nothing. I felt so low energy, so, like, you feel down, so it's hard to function. It's hard to motivate yourself to do things in that circumstance. And folks say, oh, well, there's food banks. Well, yeah, but they're not going to deliver to you. Some folks, it's like they have to go through an unbelievable amount. They have to have somebody assist them to get dressed, to move around, maybe to be in like some kind of device, like a wheelchair or something. It's not so easy. We take it for granted. Some folks, they can't just get out of bed and walk out the door. They don't even have that ability. So it's expensive. Gas, vehicle, transportation, any way you do it, it's not low cost. So you have to have money. Even to get quote unquote free food. Like, the only food bank that I know of in my area, it's about $30 at least, back and forth. Like if I were to order a Lyft, since I don't have a vehicle, nor do I drive right now. And for many folks, that's the case. I remember there was a few times I had to try to rush and even excuse myself a few minutes early from work and try to get there before they closed. And even when you Google like this location, I noticed especially in 2024, end of 2024, they would have their hours online, but they would close about half an hour, not half an hour, maybe about 20 minutes before the actual closing time. So, imagine you go there, you spend the time, you spend the money, and it's like, for what? And $20-$30 may not seem like a lot, but, it could be to someone. In the U.S., you can get usually food assistance from the government, and then you can get, you can go to food banks. Basically, anyone qualifies for that. And that's what some folks have to do, because food is not cheap either. It's unbelievable. Every time I go, it's more expensive in some form. Every time. Even as of a few days ago. So, life, there's a lot more. We have to think about the details. There's a lot more in terms of functioning and maintaining in life than what meets the eye. And it's very sad to see what's going on. And it seems like that's not going to get better, So I'm just trying to show that, it's really necessary for some folks to have what they have, because it's not necessarily easy. Even the food thing is kind of easy, but when I was on it, it took me weeks. And nowadays, I'm sure it takes longer. When I call my county, sometimes I have to call several times a week just to talk to a single human being, a single time. You stay on hold for an hour, for hours. It's like there's requirements. You have to constantly show if your income is increasing. Even if it stays the same, you have to tell them that, there's like an hour. Either fill out a form, send documents that are necessary, if so, or you do an interview, which is about an hour. So the requirements aren't that bad, but I'm just saying, like, imagine all of a sudden you find one day, oh, I don't have access to food. And it can just occur like that, It can be sudden. And let's say you can't go to the food bank for reasons I described. And the situation has occurred to me several times. Then, my knees. Then, if you think, okay, well, last resort, the food assistance from the state, it's like, you're going to have to wait weeks, as I said, at least weeks. It could be a month, it could be 2 months, it could be longer, I think relatively soon, it's going to take longer than a month. I've already heard stories of folks saying it's taken them a month. So, yeah, it's crazy. Also with the eyeshadows, I noticed these fade, like even this color scheme here, which I think was mostly Queen's Desire. You see how quickly, it hasn't even been an hour, it's been 34 minutes, well, maybe longer. It has faded within an hour. The brown's basically totally gone. You're not seeing the shimmers really. So, yeah, these just, I was wishing these would be good quality, but it seems like most of them are not, to be quite honest. They just don't last on the eyes. And even with that mist, it's not lasting. I don't know. This looks like I have blush, which I do, but I feel like some of this here is the blush and some of it is redness. So I do feel like all over the foundation is coming off, and it hasn't been even an hour yet, so maybe that foundation is not as good as I was thinking. The concealer, the lines are exaggerated, but the coverage is okay. At least that technically lasted. So, and folks are like, oh, well, just, this is another thing folks take for granted. I really noticed this in 2025. No, 2025. Early. Couldn't believe it. So I've fallen on hard times, if you can gather, many times, and I've had to ask, I've done everything you can think of when it comes to trying to find ways to afford things, food and other things. I've gone into credit card debt, savings, it's totally gone. I've used my own money. I've gotten free stuff when I can, like always trying to buy on sale. Half of my stuff, at least, if not more, is on sale on everything, food, clothing, everything. If there's like a buy one, get one free, any of those sort of BOGO sales, like there was a book sale recently that I went to just yesterday, and got a ton of books for a few bucks, and I mean like a big bag and half of another big bag too. So even on entertainment and stuff, I try to find it for they're like, about 30 cents each, maybe less. I cut out all my, the things I used to subscribe to. Anyway, but I was talking about, for instance, like food. I've done all those methods, for instance. And, I do get a bit of assistance, which very blessed. With the food, that's it. That's all I get. I don't get housing, I don't get disability, I don't get Social Security, nothing besides that. My family has been a blessing, big blessing in a way, because without them I would be, I would have been on the streets for a much longer time, let's just say that. I was barely, but there was like a little time in my life, a very small amount of time. So it's because of them I've got housing for free and utilities, although, I'm reminded all the time, so it is with resentment. But, yeah. I could have really used housing, and I still, could use it now. And even if it wasn't totally free, like even if it was $400 a month or less or whatever, something very reduced, that's still something. So it's a room around me. Like I found maybe a few. I can count on one hand, literally the amount of listings I found where the housing cost was, let's say $900 or less. Because most of the rooms I found, they start at $1,200 a month and utilities, and $1,200 is considered kind of low, so that's on the lower end, but it can easily be $1,600, $1,800. I've seen even $2,000. I've seen, more than $2,000. This is not even a studio of, for yourself. This is just an area of a house, and you're most likely sharing a bathroom and everything else. So you just get an area for yourself to rest in, lay your head on, the end of the night, or however it's said, and a shared bathroom, that's about it. And the area you get to yourself is most likely it's not that large. The lodgings are very modest. And a lot of them that are on even one I saw was $1,200. It came with no furnishing whatsoever, not even a mattress. The room was totally bare. There was a nice closet, but the room had nothing whatsoever. So yeah, like I would have just given up everything, even the food, honestly, if I could have gotten some, if I could have gotten a hand when it came to housing. Even I would have rather maybe not gotten as much food and just like managed somehow, because at least there's food banks and stuff like that. Even to use that money for your own needs like hygiene, clothing, your day-to-day sort of costs, utilities, stuff like that. Now I don't cover any utility costs. So the housing in totality for now, for me, is, financially directly free, not free in reality, but it comes with a lot of, that's another thing I talk about, is just how much you have to sacrifice, how isolated you can easily become. Like living with somebody in their home is no joke. You've got no legal rights. You've got no social rights. If anything occurs to you, it's like you're told, oh, you're exaggerating, it's trivial, just talk it out, There's no... Folks just quite frankly want to be nice and don't want to hear it. So also what I noticed, I know I'm talking all over, but I only have a few minutes left. Also what I noticed 2025 is it's really hard. It's really, really hard to get anything. Like if you're falling on hard times and you need just a few things, it could be the smallest, like food, whatever. It's very, very hard nowadays, like relative to, let's say, even 2024. I mean, 2025, maybe it was a few times or so where I was given a hand just for little things as I described, and that's it. And I really had to ask and embarrass myself and all that kind of stuff, so it was very hard. And I wasn't able to get as much of a hand than I have been before 2025. So sometimes neighbors will assist. I'll give, some neighbors, a very small amount of them, I'll give them their credit that's due, but it's a very small amount. I found neighbors generally, and I'm sure it has to do with where I live, but at least for me, neighbors, it's a reaction of indifference. They don't treat me badly. They don't do anything useful either. They just kind of look the other way. Even if I'm direct, even because if it's online, for instance, I can see the comments, I can see the views. So even if, let's say it's online and I say something and I see, for instance, oh, I got 1,000 views. Maybe, like at most,